Hey family, and anybody else watching, and welcome back to As For Me and My House. Today, Deuteronomy 10, 11, and 12. And today's goes out to you, Faith. We are looking at kind of the heart of the matter today. And what I mean by that is I think that we can get caught up at looking at a lot of different things in the Bible due to all the stories, all the themes. There's so much going on. But there's the heart of the matter that we've talked about before, given the commandments, and today we get some really good reminders of that. So we'll look at the second set of tablets. We'll look at more, but beyond that, we were looking before at the driving out of the nations, the importance of remembering the Lord, the fact that it wasn't due to Israel's righteousness that all these other countries were driven out. It was because God loved them. And it was because of the wickedness of the other nations. And then we also looked at the golden calf. Again, like I said, we're going to be looking at that second set of tablets because Moses broke the first set just due to the anger at the golden calf and the worship that the Israelites were doing. We'll look at the themes of fear, love, obedience, and worship. Really, really good stuff. Really important there. And then we'll look at some New Testament stuff, which is always fun. But again, Deuteronomy 10, 11, and 12 today. So, chapter 10. At that time, the Lord said to me, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and come up to me on the mountain. Also, make a wooden chest. I will write on the tablets the words that were written on the first tablets which you broke. Then you are to put them in the chest." So I made the ark out of acacia wood and chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I went up on the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hands. The Lord wrote on these tablets what he had written on them before, the 10 commandments he had proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire, on the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them to me. Then I came back down the mountain and put the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord had commanded me, and they are there now. The Israelites traveled from the wells of the Jachanites to Masrah. There Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest. From there they traveled to Gudgodah and on to Jotbatha, a land of streams of water. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister, and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they still do today. That is why the Levites have no share or inheritance among their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance, as the Lord your God told them. Now, I had stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I did the first time, and the Lord listened to me at that time also. It was not his will to destroy you. Go, the Lord said to me, and lead the people on their way, so that they may enter and possess the land I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God, and to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good. To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your forefathers and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations as it is today. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is the God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the alien, giving him food and clothing. And you are to love those who are aliens, for you yourselves are aliens in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is your praise. He is your God, who performed for you those great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your forefathers who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Chapter 11. Love the Lord your God, and keep his requirements, his decrees and laws, and his commands always. Remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God, his majesty, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, the signs that he performed and the things he did in the heart of Egypt, both the Pharaoh king of Egypt and his whole country, what he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the desert until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the Reubenite, when when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all Israel and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that belonged to them. But it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. Observe, therefore, all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land that the Lord swore to your forefathers to give them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden, but the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it, from the beginning of the year to its end. So, if you faithfully obey the commands I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on the land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your rain new wine and oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut the heavens, so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce. You will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give to your forefathers, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth. If you carefully observe all these commands I am giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the western sea. No man will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I commanded you today by following other gods, which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land that you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings, and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, the mountains are across the Jordan, west of the road, toward the setting sun, near the trees of Moreh, in the territory of the Canaanites, living in the Arabah, in the vicinity of Gilgal. You are to cross the Jordan, and to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure to obey all the decrees and laws I am setting before you today. Chapter 12. These are the decrees and laws that you must be careful to follow in the land the Lord your God of your fathers has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains and on the hills, and under every spreading tree where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, burn their Asherah poles in the fire, cut down the idols of their gods, and wipe out their names from those places. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes, to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give in your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There, in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything that you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone as he sees fit, since you have not yet received the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you the rest from all your enemies around you, so that you will live in safety. Then to the place that the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name, there you are to bring everything that I command you. Your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord, and there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons, your daughters, your men servants and maid servants, and the Levites from your towns who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns, and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were a gazelle or deer, according to the blessing the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, but you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground, like water. You must not eat in your own towns the tithe of your grain and new wine and oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your freewill offerings or special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place the Lord your God will choose. You, your sons and your daughters, your men servants and maid servants, and the Levites from your towns, you and you are to rejoice before their Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God has enlarged your territory, as he promised you, and you crave meat and say, I would like some meat, then you may eat of it as much as you want. If the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter animals from the herds and flocks the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want. Eat them as you would a gazelle or a deer. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, but be sure you do not eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. You must not eat the blood, pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord. But take your consecrated things and whatever else you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord will choose. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all the regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods, they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods. See that you do all I command you, and do not add to it or take away from it. Man, that is so sobering. God just giving that warning, and that the Mount Ebal and Mount what's the other mountain? I don't remember. Mount Gerizim, I think, how they are across from each other, and this is a promise of blessing and a promise of curses, saying, hey, if you are obedient, the blessings are before you. I think that's so interesting. The other thing that I think is really interesting is a discussion that my mom and I have had a lot about yoga. And we have some people in our church that that do yoga. And I thought that was kind of a doctrinally an interesting thing, right? They say, oh yeah, we'll do yoga and worship or whatever. And, we do this to the Lord. I never really thought about it a lot. I mean, if we know those other gods don't exist and they are nothing, but in some cases, maybe they're demons, right? But why would it matter if we're not thinking about them or worshiping them? We know that they hold no power, right? It is God, and to God we give the glory, right? Well, we see right here, even in the Old Testament, God does not want to be worshipped like them. And it's interesting too, because this mentions the high places, that you have one place of worship. This is how you are to worship. I mean, right at the start of chapter 12, here we go. Chapter 12, verse 2, destroy completely all the places on the high mountains and on the hills and under every spreading tree where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. You'll see, and will continue to see throughout the Old Testament, that even the good kings that, destroyed the Asherah poles and did all this stuff, it'll almost always say, but the high places weren't destroyed. So they were obedient in so much, and yet they still didn't destroy these high places. And maybe they did. Maybe they did worship God in those places, or tried to. But God said that's not what he wants. So why are we trying to worship God in a way that maybe he doesn't want? I think that's something that's interesting. But beyond that, Faith, I wanted to talk about something that I thought was really cool, because when I started reading these, I was immediately thinking about 1 Corinthians 13:13. 1 Corinthians 13:13, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And I thought that's super cool, because we're looking at that in here. I mean, looking at the Israelites, they can have faith and they can have hope given what God has done for them. I mean, it says right here, it wasn't your children that God did all this for. Your children didn't see this. It was you. It was you who God did this for. God did all these miraculous signs in front of the Egyptians and drove them out. He drove out all these other armies. He gave you victory over all these peoples. You are to remember this, so we can have faith in that, and we have hope because of that. So I thought that was really cool. That also reminded me of Mark 12:28 through 31. Mark 12:28 through 31, greatest commandment. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noting that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, Jesus answered, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than these. I think it's so interesting that we get a repeat here. I mean, Jesus is probably quoting Deuteronomy, but we get that repeat, that faith, hope, and love. Here we have love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. By the way, even though it's not easy, love your neighbor as yourself. And I think it's really cool that we see that. So when we struggle, we know that we are fallible, we know that we are fallen. We can have faith absolutely not in ourselves. We have faith in God's work, in His work, and what He's done. We have hope in His life, death, and resurrection. And then finally, we can have hope and we know about His love for us, even when our love falters. I mean, we know love is a choice, right? That it's not just an emotion, but it is a choice. And it's a choice that we may fail at every day in some capacity, but God doesn't, because He's embodies love. I think that's so important. So I thought it was cool because it just, when reading this, it totally reminded, I was like, man, such a great name, faith. It's like, that's what we can have faith in. This is who we're putting our faith in, because our God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is the God who we worship and who we love. It's a great thing that your name is Faith. What an awesome reminder. It's beautiful. Worth praying about. So let's do it. My God, I thank you for Faith. I just thank you that she is such a joy, Lord. I pray that you be with her, God, that you help her remember her namesake, God, and you help all of us remember that we can have faith in you because we have hope in you, because we know that you love us so greatly. Lord, may we treasure you and love you with all that we are, and love one another as well. Once again, God, I thank you so much for her, and infinitely more for your son, Jesus. And it's in his name we pray. Amen. Faith, I love you tons. Holy moly. For anyone else watching, know that I appreciate you so much as well, and I will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.